into the game. It's gonna be Almeria versus Hut. Good God, what have I done? And we are gonna be on High View. It is gonna be Roos versus England, so it should be an interesting one. There's definitely some ways that England can cause a little bit of an upset on the home maps of the Roos. We'll have to see how this one plays out. Generation-wise, pretty fair, pretty easy to access the gold. But wait, why are we looking at gold, guys? You know what the best part about this matchup is? No one needs gold. One of them just hunts and one of them doesn't care. Obviously, he's going to get his initial gold, but after that, wasted building. If he could, he'd refund it. So we'll see how this one plays out. I'm expecting just a standardized opening from England. Question is what the Roos are going to do, because I think Roos are still kind of like, you know, tapping the noggin against the wall, figuring out what they want to do. There's no established meta, right? I don't think that if you went through 10 different games with the Roos, and none of them were on Boulder Bay, you wouldn't have a consistent answer to the question, what do they build? And that's fun. I actually like that. I think more civs need to reach that consensus, right? That's actually, like, that's one of the big challenges as a dev when you kind of move forward and, like, the meta becomes stale because it's been around too long. You have to find a way to make it interesting. You have to force a change that forces a change. Ideally, the change you bring about, though, opens up multiple builds. So that's also why sometimes devs immediately target a nerf instead of a buff, is because, oh, well, you know, Horse Archers is way too strong. We have to nerf that to open up all the possibilities. And that really did do the trick for the Roos. Some other ones is a little bit more tricky, like, you know, if you nerf French Knights, like, what would they really have left? So it's a teeter-totter balance. I'm always a bigger fan of buffing things instead of nerfing them, though, which is, well, I guess Horseman is quite the conundrum right now. Which is something we could see out of England now that I'm thinking about it. We were just talking about how in the M4C qualifiers, everyone was like, surprise, English Horseman. Could always end up seeing it in a game like High View. I think it's definitely manipulatable because I think Horsemen are incredibly potent on these limited vision type maps. And also, Horsemen are a fantastic counter to the vision givers, right? These scouts. It's such an easy way to deny your opponent complete control of the map. And I've been very vocal about this. I think Horsemen, in their current state, are an incredibly oppressive unit. They're incredibly powerful, one of the best units in the game. Because if most games are being decided in the first 20 minutes, like, you have to start thinking about, like, accessibility and what matters in the first 20 minutes. I think one big thing they can do at the highest level that is absolutely critical is the ability to snipe out these scouts. Something that no other unit can do in the early phase of the game. Unless you accidentally click underneath a TC, because you've got how to micro. So yeah, I am a big nerd for scouting. You know how everyone has that kind of thing? Like, I talk about transitions and scouting a lot, okay? I'm a play-by-play. Don't expect too much assessment here. Well, actually, there's a lot of assessment. Don't expect too much diversification here. Scouts, 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 scouts. There we go. So, in the meantime, Hart, is he actually pushing out as many scouts as possible? No, he delays himself. This is something interesting I have been noticing a lot of Roos players do. Like, because they want wheelbarrows so badly, they tend to stop at 3 scouts, which does open themselves up to just essentially being counter-hunted, right? Like, the game can be taken away from them. But in this situation, Amir, he does do that. He goes for the second scout, so he's able to deny a lot of this away. Hot will still at least get up to the tier 2 bounty. And I feel like a mistake has been made somewhere by Armiria. Because he shouldn't... I don't feel like Hut should be getting this much. He's still got a bunch of sheep. He hasn't been assassinating sheep yet. And yeah, it's just better micro. Because Hut, he's got 2 scouts prowling around for the deer. And then also, I think he found more the wolves than Armiria did. It's important to keep in mind that, like, there is an argument that the Roos player is going to be more invested in like, focusing on what's happening and looking at his scouts to find the wolves. But my counter-argument is, realistically, what are you doing as England that's taking up all your attention in the first 5 minutes? And I think we're all nodding our head right now and going, yeah, that's a fair point. Because England doesn't... They don't really tend to do anything out of the bag unordinary most of the time. However, this time, Armiria is looking to throw that curveball. He's already got 4 people on stone. This looks like this might be a secondary TC. I think this is a secondary TC. And I think this might be a mistake, because well, we just talked about the thing that can kill a scout is not paying attention. He will lose the scout, but it got vital info right now. 5 people on the stone line. This very much looks like a secondary TC. Wow. I mean, I'm kind of surprised here. This is... I'd say a little bit ballsy. I'd say very ballsy. I think it's fair to say that like a lot of people's feeling on the subject of England is that power spike is around lombos, and if you just show your hand like this, instantly going in for a secondary TC, and you don't necessarily hide it from your opponent at all on an open map like Highview, this might be very exploitable by Hart. Hart is also a fairly aggressive player. I know kind of like, you know, highlighted himself in the Age of Empires community, especially with his HRE play. But even then, I've got to give it to him. Compared to all the HRE players, all the original HRE kings when the game first came out, this guy was probably the most aggressive one. He'd crack castle like all HRE players would, but then he'd do things like the quad stable drop. He led the way with that. He's very much an in-your-face type player. And when he sees you kind of just wiggling your tushki, teasing him from the other side, he's going to just activate wolf mode and chase you down, which is exactly why it's going to be the stable archery range drop. And yeah, I mean, the second TC, it's somewhat padded. He's not being too greedy with his placement, but very risky. It will at least deny easy access to the deer at the back, but Hart has confirmation now. Yeah, he just saw it being constructed, and he sees the racks being dropped. So everything that Armiri is doing right now says, I'm defensive, come attack me. Question is, how's Hart going to answer? I think it's with an attack. It's going to be a triple archery range drop. So we'll have a few knights to be able to roam in, prowl in, dive under the TCs and not care. But it really is going to be a ram rush type play. So Hart, like I said, yeah, he can be greedy. And when you give him the opportunity to be greedy, he will take it. But when you demand that he comes to you, he's going to roll up to your base with a sizable force in the blink of an eye. And that's exactly what he's looking to do in this game. And Armiria, he has got eyeballs on it. So credit to him on the scouting factor. The problem is he's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound now. Like, you see the triple archery range. He's going for the stable drop. Now, England could be a little bit fragile at this stage. Like, it's not the same as other civs when they go for a secondary TC. I always say the Abysses are the most powerful civ for going for a secondary TC quickly. And we actually see it, like, time and time again if you compare the average timings, because of the fact that they get the bog off, right? The buy one, get one free. Once they get their hands on fresh foodstuffs, the cost of a villager goes down to 25. And it means they haven't got this extra strain on their economy initially of, like, paying double the amount into villages to push up their eco lines quicker. This hit into your initial food is going to cripple your ability to push out ample horsemen. So you do have to be very careful as Armiria. I wouldn't be against him leveraging this wood count right now to essentially switch over into farmlands quicker so that he's online. Because right now he's just relying on the sheep. And the sheep will get him a decent way of the way. I wonder if it's better to like delay some of your influx here to just instantly get into the farmland. Because I think that's going to scale you better like 3 or 4 minutes from now, which is when Hut should arrive in your base with an ample archer count. Well, we've all heard the song at Pizza Hut, but at this hut, at Roos Hut, it's all about the aggression. And he's going to look to turn Armiria into some Kentucky Fried Chicken, and he might just deep fry him. If he gets enough archers here and starts dropping the blacksmith into the siege engineering, which is what he's doing, this game can very quickly become uncomfortable for Armiria. So critical he gets this horseman out. He's at least stabilizing production out of the double stable right now. My concern is if this ever gets spotted, which it could be because it's on his front line, remember, there could just be an immediate shift in the spears. And yeah, Hart, very disciplined here. You push this many troops out, and then you instantly go, wait a second. I see what you're doing there. And that is a lot of open ground from which I can be pulled apart. He's going to back up and show some respect, but he needs to get the racks down. He needs it now. Otherwise, this starts to look a bit dicey. Meantime, Scout and Knight's going to move across. I love this play, by the way. This is so underrated. A few players have started to like clock onto this. Hart used to do it back in the early days as well. When you do play into a stable early on, you get one Knight and you get the Scout, and then you essentially move out and you aggro the boar, and then you just keep running around with the Scout while the Knight assassinates the boar, because the aggro won't switch. He didn't min-max it there, and unfortunately took a lot of damage to the Knight here. It wasn't optimally done, but in fairness to him, he was microing groups back from the center here. So that's why it ended up taking damage. But optimally, this Knight shouldn't take an ounce of damage. And the Scout should walk away just about alive, as it did in the end. But Hart, this very much is turning the all-in. He's going to siege engineering. I am concerned the lack of spearmen still. But he feels like he can't afford the wood cost. Like, it's costing him so much to push the archers out right now, which is why he's getting engaged. Horsemen move in, and it's only horsemen. And the Knight, Armiria missed micro there, taking a lot more damage on the horses than he should have, but now he'll turn onto the unit that he gets the bonus damage against. And Hart will stand his ground. And I think he's going to come out ahead. Armirian microed this. He wasted so much time on the knight, done so little damage, and then he didn't have enough of the horseman when he initially went on anyway. And this is surprising because Armirian, if he just waits for Hut to start investing into the ram, that's your go time. But instead, because you take a bad fight, now Hut can comfortably build up the ram and be unimpeded. Ay, ay, ay. That really turns into a basic math game at this stage, doesn't it, folks? 2 stables versus 4 archery ranges. I mean, these horsemen, they are definitely powerful if you hit the right unit with the double damage, but how many strikes? He got 1 round of strikes. I think he was midway through the second animations. He definitely wasted a lot of time on just 1 knight. Unfortunately, went in with way too few horsemen. And this was my concern, right? We said about the ability to keep up the production rate. And although he's transitioned now into the farmlands, like it feels like he's in a fragile state. Had he just waited for the aggression to come into his base, I think he's a lot more betterly postured to take this engagement with the horsemen, knowing that the archers are going to trickle in a little bit thinner. But instead, now he's in trouble. Hut's going to move in. He's going to spot the villagers. No textiles upgrade either, so this will hurt. And so many archers here. Be a move out. Armiria staggered. The way he's moving past his buildings is actually hurting him right now. And the damage being done. He doesn't even have the missile resistance upgrade. And here's going to be a rout. Hut, it's just so trivial. It's so one brain cell, no more brain needed situation here. As he just has way too many archers. Even the villager pull is not going to be good enough. The ram survives on 2 HP. Armiria's army and his villagers will not, though. They can't make it out. And this is a heavy hit. 2 military units left for Armiria, and all of that scaling off the secondary TC evaporates as they are both now neck and neck on the eco count. Oh my, oh my. Armiria, I mean 42, it might be the answer to the universe, but I don't think it's going to be the answer to this game. You need a bigger population, you need it fast. The only reason Hut slowed down is because he was pop capped. He's going to double up now. And the crazy part you have to think about, folks, in this game, Armiria, like, he knew it was a mistake when he went for that second TC. He scouted the archer range drops. And that's the problem. If you don't contain that variable, if you don't control the vision factor, you can't even sneak this. It's so obvious when you use the stone on the front of your base. And this is just the ripple effect minutes later. Vision is key. Vision wins games. And that's exactly what enabled Hut to do this. A very ballsy play to only push archers for so long. But because Armiria stretches his eco thin with his secondary TC, he just can't support trip stables. He can't even support double stables constantly. And that is why he was not ready with a horseman count at any stage. And once again, a bad fight. And this just might be the final fight. I mean, this looks pathetic in comparison to the previous ones. And you have to imagine, like, if he had a blacksmith upgrade, for example, if he had got the extra missile armor, could it have helped a little bit? If he had maybe had the surplus to just float free of these stables, it's a completely different game, but we don't deal in what ifs or maybes. We deal in musts and do's, and Hut has done everything required to win this one. Armiria even falling back to longbows now. The superior range helps little in this situation. And just 1 ram is going to be enough to shut Armiria entirely out. He just doesn't have anything left. He's at least getting food and wood at the back, but no answer to a single ram means your second TC is going to fall soon. And villagers even moving in. Hut sacrificing villagers to min-max the ram on the front, ensuring that he doesn't overextend or overstay his welcome and instead gets a very easy win here, proving that he is the one with the highest mountain on high view. Yeah, and just a pristine example of what we was highlighting at the start, why we don't see multi-TC plays. I think there's like 1 player that I've seen do multi-TCs, and that was months ago. It looked good, and that would have been Marine Lord. Halfway through Feudal, he would tend to go for a second town center, and the whole point is that you make that conscious choice after you see what your opponent does. My issue in this game is that Armiria made this choice to go for a second TC without any info on what his opponent was doing. And he went into it so early that he didn't leave himself wiggle room to get out of it. It's so much of an investment at that stage in the game, so much of your villager force, that if you don't build a TC, you're just griefing, right? And because he's not able to hide what he's doing, because his stone is on the front line, it's so quickly exposed by even a Roost player who's looking for game more than vision in the early phase of the game. It just feels like you're just walking up to the roulette table and putting your house, your whole mortgage, like every single cent you own, on 2. And there's a small chance that you could come out ahead. There's a small chance you could be a millionaire off that. There's a much higher chance that you could just look like a fool. And Almeria, he just got caught with his trousers around his ankles. And you're playing against a player who isn't a muppet, you know? Like, Hart, he's played a lot of Age of Empires. He understands the microcosms in these matchups. And when he sees not just a microcosm, but a gaping black hole in your universe, like that, it's just so easily exploitable for him. Fantastically done by Hart. Not just to double down, to triple down even on the archers, even against the horsemen, was a phenomenal play. And I'll give a small heads up, I'll give a small credit to Almeria for spotting that archery range spam. But it's all negated by the fact that he's already locked himself into a corner in that game. So just all too trivial for the Roost player to come on through.